In the fading light of a gray-blue morning, 10-year-old Mila stood barefoot on the cracked stone floor of her grandmother's crumbling kitchen. The silence of the room felt ancient, like it had learned not to expect miracles. Mila gripped the only polished thing in the entire home, a tarnished silver spoon her grandmother called the last dream. She said it came from a time when people had enough to share. The wind rattled loose glass panes as Mila whispered, "One day, I'll fill this spoon with something warm." Her voice cracked but did not break. Grandmother Hannah stirred slowly in the corner, her face more lines than flesh, her eyes hollow but watching. She said, "A spoon can't build a world, but it can start one." Outside, the alley coughed with the noise of cots and shouts. But in this room, time had narrowed to a spoon, a girl, and a hunger far deeper than food. Hope doesn't arrive loud. It begins with something small and ordinary. Mila believed this. She had to. Image prompts. The sound of footsteps approached, measured, heavy. Mila turned her head slightly but didn't hide the spoon. She had nothing else. The door creaked as Uncle Petar entered, his coat damp from mist and eyes bloodshot. He wasn't cruel, just carved hollow by years of loss. "No deliveries today," he muttered, setting down a threadbare satchel. Markets closed. Soldiers raided the square again. Mila didn't answer. Instead, she tucked the spoon beneath her belt as if it were treasure. Uncle Petar noticed, but said nothing. He only sighed. Grandmother Hannah coughed. Mila stepped forward, lifting a chipped mug to her lips, empty but for hope. "Maybe tomorrow," Mila said. Uncle Petar sat down with a grunt, rubbing his face. "Maybe," he replied, his voice no more certain than a dying candle's flame. After the silence settled again, Mila tiptoed to the cupboard. It groaned like a wounded animal as she opened it. Inside, half a crust of bread wrapped in a cloth, one cracked bowl, and 2 onions soft with thyme. She stared, eyes calculating not just meals, but moments. Grandmother said survival wasn't food, it was remembering who you are when it's gone. Mila peeled the onions gently, their skin like paper, her fingers quick and careful. She didn't cry. She never cried from onions. Outside, a boy's laugh echoed briefly, foreign in this house. She paused. It sounded free. That night, the family ate onion broth, thin as rainwater. Mila stirred it slowly, making it last. Hannah watched her, a small nod of pride breaking the lines of worry on her face. Uncle Petar lit a stub of candle and set it in a chipped holder. Shadows moved like ghosts across the walls. "1 spoon each," Petar said. "One dream," Mila whispered back. They each took a bite in silence. The heat was enough to remind their bones that they were still alive. And for a flicker of time, that was enough. Mila closed her eyes and imagined her spoon overflowing, not with food, but with fire and hope and stories not yet lived. Later, in the dark, Mila lay curled on a mattress of folded blankets. She held the spoon under her pillow like others would hold a photograph or prayer. The wind moaned through cracks in the window frame. She whispered to it, "I'll feed the world one day." A small promise in a world of silence. Across the room, Grandmother breathed in rasps, and Uncle Petar's sleep was restless with grief. Mila stayed still, eyes open, tracing dreams in the ceiling's shadow cracks. Outside, the city slept hungry. But inside, one girl imagined fire in a bowl and peace at a table where no one was missing. The next morning began not with light but with noise. Shouting from the alley tore through the quiet like a blade. Mila rushed to the window, pressing her face to the cracked glass. Outside, a crowd gathered, dirty coats, thin limbs, empty hands. A military truck idled, its exhaust curling into the cold air. Men in gray uniforms barked orders, unloading sacks onto the street. "Relief. Drop," Uncle Petar said behind her. He pulled on his coat, each button slow, as if the weight of it fought back. "They're giving food?" Mila asked. No, he muttered. They're letting us watch them give it. Still, he went. Mila turned to grandmother Hannah, who hadn't moved. I'll go too, she said. Stay, Hannah whispered. But Mila was already tying her boots, thin laces fraying like the edge of a dream. Mila squeezed into the crowd, the air thick with unspoken desperation. People pressed forward, their faces masks of hope and dread. A woman wept when her hand touched a sack of potatoes, only to be shoved aside by someone stronger. The soldiers laughed. Mila reached for a loaf, but a boot kicked it away. Children in the back, a soldier barked. Her stomach roared in protest, but her hand stayed down. She watched Uncle Petar up front, arguing with a god. He pointed to Mila. She's hungry. The guard sneered. So are we. Petar didn't fight. He just stood there, eyes burning. Mila stepped backward, out of the mob, tears gathering but unshed. The spoon in her pocket felt heavier than any sack. She wandered past the alley, boots crunching over broken glass. Her stomach churned, not just from hunger, but from anger. Down a side path she saw a figure slumped near a trash bin, another child, maybe younger, face smudged, cradling something to his chest. Mila approached slowly. You all right? She asked. The boy didn't answer, just looked at her with eyes too tired for 10 years. In his arms, a crust of bread. She crouched beside him. I'm Mila. No reply. You can have half my dream, she said, pulling the spoon from her coat. The boy blinked. Then, slowly, silently, he broke the bread and held out a piece. They sat on the cold ground, sharing silence and something like peace. Later, Mila walked home alone, the boy's name still unknown, but his kindness imprinted on her chest. She passed a bakery, closed, boarded up, but its scent clung to the bricks. Her fingers touched the spoon again. Half a dream fed 2 mouths, she whispered. Inside their flat, grandmother Hannah stirred. You went, she rasped. Yes, Mila replied, setting the spoon gently on the table. Petar sat silently, bruised on his temple. He didn't explain, and Mila didn't ask. She sat beside him, placing her hand over his. His fingers flinched, then softened. Tomorrow, he said. Mila nodded. Tomorrow. That night, Mila couldn't sleep. The shadows on the wall danced like memory. She held the spoon in her hand again, not beneath the pillow this time, but openly, watching how it caught the moonlight. You're not just silver, she whispered. You're a seed. Her voice didn't shake. She imagined a place where food wasn't locked behind soldiers, where children didn't fear the line for bread. She would build that place. Maybe not now, not soon, but she would. And it would begin, always, with this spoon. She kissed the edge of the handle, tucked it into her coat pocket, and turned to the window. The moon hung low, full and pale, like a promise. Mila smiled. Her dream had survived another day. Snow fell overnight, muffling the city's hunger with a quiet so thick it felt like forgiveness. Mila woke early, her breath visible in the icy air. She dressed quickly, pulled on her boots, and slipped the spoon into her coat pocket like armor. Outside the world was white, but not clean. The snow covered filth, not erased it. She walked toward the school building, long abandoned, but now used as a gathering space. On the way, she spotted a flyer nailed to a post. Community kitchen, seeking helpers. Her fingers touched the paper reverently. Helpers, she whispered, not beggars. She ran the rest of the way. Hope moved faster than her feet could carry. The kitchen wasn't much, just a basement beneath the old school with broken tile floors and a rusted stove. But to Mila, it was a palace. Inside, 3 women stirred pots and unpacked crates. Their faces were lined, hands calloused, but their voices hummed with purpose. Mila stepped in slowly. One of the women looked up. You lost? Mila shook her head. Huh? I want to help. The woman stared at her for a moment, then nodded toward the crates. Start peeling. Mila rolled up her sleeves and moved without hesitation. Unwavering. The room smelled of broth, steam rising like hope. The spoon pressed warm against her chest, close to where her dream lived. Hours passed. Mila peeled vegetables with aching fingers, her palms red from cold and water. But she didn't stop. The women didn't speak much, but their nods said enough. One handed her a ladle. Try. Mila stepped to the pot, careful, reverent. The soup shimmered with greens and roots. She dipped the ladle, trembling, and tasted it. It was weak, but real. She smiled. Good, she said. The women chuckled. We're working on it, one replied. In that room, hunger was a shared enemy, not a shame. Mila belonged. The spoon pressed against her coat like a heartbeat. That evening, they served the soup. A line formed outside. Thin bodies, thick scarves, empty bowls in hand. Mila stood beside the counter, ladle ready, the silver spoon hidden under her coat, but glowing in her thoughts. One by one, people stepped up. Thank you, they said. Bless you. She nodded, scooped, poured. The rhythm became prayer. Near the end, the boy from the alley appeared. He looked surprised to see her. She handed him a bowl with a smile. Told you I'd feed someone. He grinned, silent, and stepped away. For the first time in days, Mila felt full. After cleanup, Mila sat alone, hands wrapped around her own bowl. The others had gone. A single candle flickered, casting her shadow large on the wall. She pulled the spoon from her coat and dipped it into the soup, slowly, like a ceremony. She ate. Not fast, not greedy, just enough. She looked around the empty room and whispered, Tomorrow we'll serve more. The spoon rested in the bowl, glowing faintly in the candlelight. Mila closed her eyes and imagined firewood, vegetables, laughter, a city that healed itself. One bowl, one spoon, one dream at a time. Winter deepened, and with it, the line outside the kitchen grew longer. Word had spread. There was food, even if thin. There was warmth. Mila arrived before dawn every day now, unlocking the rusted door with the care of someone opening a treasure vault. Inside, the air was frigid, but the pots waited like sleeping giants. She lit the stove, the flame slow to rise, and laid the spoon beside it like a relic. Her hands knew the steps now: wash, chop, stir. The women called her Little Flame. She liked that. Grandmother Hannah had begun sitting up again. She brings it back with her, Hannah had whispered. That fire. Mila worked quietly, but her thoughts burned brighter than any stove. The dream was no longer silent. It was waking. That morning, a man in a long coat arrived. His boots were polished, unusual. He stood back from the line, observing. The women stiffened. Mila noticed too. She kept serving. Eventually, he stepped forward. I'm with the council, he said. We're inspecting civilian operations. Mila looked up at him, ladle in hand. We're feeding people. That's the operation. He didn't smile. You're not registered. One of the women replied, We weren't starving for permission. The man studied Mila. How old are you? She met his gaze. Old enough to cook. He left without another word. But his presence lingered like frost on the windows. After the inspector left, the women whispered, They'll shut us down. Mila kept stirring. Let them come. We'll cook in the street. One laughed, tired but proud. You really believe that? Mila looked at her, spoon lifted. This fed 50 today. You think a door will stop that? They kept cooking. That evening, a girl her age came through the line. Her coat was thin, her eyes cautious. Mila handed her a bowl. First time? The girl nodded. My name's Dasha, she whispered. I saw you. Come back tomorrow, Mila said. Bring someone else. The line was shrinking, but the dream was growing. That night, Mila brought Dasha home. Uncle Pitar raised an eyebrow, but didn't question it. One more bowl, he muttered, slicing a soft onion. Hannah smiled faintly at the new face. They ate together on the floor, knees touching, spoons scraping quietly. Dasha looked at the room like it was a storybook. You live here? Mila nodded. It's not much, but the walls don't fall in when you laugh. They laughed then. It echoed longer than expected. Petar looked up, eyes softening. Hannah whispered, "This is how it starts. Not in palaces. At spoons in the dark." Outside, snow fell again, but inside, fire bloomed. By week's end, more children had joined. Dasha brought 2. One brought another. The kitchen bustled with young hands and quiet joy. Someone donated aprons. Another brought salt. Mila stood in the middle, calling out tasks. You chop, you stir, you set bowls. She moved like fire, quick, bright, unstoppable. The women smiled from the edges. We're not running it anymore, one said. She is. Outside, soldiers passed by, indifferent, for now. Inside, the spoon still sat near the stove, not hidden, not feared. It had become more than a relic. It was a banner. And Mila. She was no longer dreaming alone. It started with silence. No footsteps, no carts, just a tension that cracked the morning like brittle ice. Then boots. Mighty way. Dozens. Mila stood outside the kitchen before dawn, snow in her lashes, the spoon already in hand. Soldiers marched down the street, led by the man from the council. The line dissolved. Children scattered. Mila stood firm. Inside, pots boiled. Outside, orders barked. The officer approached. This is unauthorized. Mila raised the spoon. So was hunger. He looked at her, really looked, and for a second faltered. Then motion. Shut it down. 2 soldiers stepped forward. Mila didn't move. Touch this place, and you'll need to feed all of us yourselves. Silence held. Then, a woman from the line stepped beside her. Then, a man. Then, 2 children. The street, suddenly, was full. The standoff didn't last long, but it was enough. The officer, seeing the wall of bodies and eyes, turned. You've made your point, he said coldly. You'll hear from the city? Then, they left. Mila didn't cheer. She only exhaled, long and slow. The crowd began to murmur, then move. Back to the line. Back to the door. Back to the dream. Inside, Dasha hugged her tight. I thought they'd take it all. Mila shook her head. They didn't build it. They can't take it. She returned to the stove, picked up the ladle, and stirred. The soup wasn't thick. But the spirit? That was unstoppable. That evening word spread fast. What happened in the street, the girl with the spoon, the wall of neighbors. Stories grew, and with them, something else. Donations. Bread, beans, a sack of rice. One man even brought spices. The kitchen swelled with smells that hadn't been there in months. The women smiled wider. Smells like a real meal, one said. Mila tasted the broth. Warm, rich, alive. She stood taller now. Not older, just steadier. Outside, someone chalked the spoon kitchen on the wall. She saw it, touched it, and whispered, So it begins. That night, the city didn't feel quite as broken. Mila walked home with Dasha and 2 others, their breath fogging the air, arms linked, tired but light. At home, Grandmother Hannah sat up, eyes clearer than they'd been in weeks. Tell me, she said. Mila knelt beside her and spoke softly, retelling the day like it was legend. Petar listened from the corner, quiet, his hands resting calmly. So they stood with you? Hannah asked. Yes, Mila said. And they'll come tomorrow too. Hannah smiled. The world is hungry for fire, child. And you've lit one. Mila lay awake again, but not with fear, this time with plans. In her head, better pots, more seats, firewood stacked high. Her hand clutched the spoon, resting across her chest like a badge. She heard voices in dreams, laughing, cooking, singing. The city outside was still cold, still wounded. But it had a spark now. She would feed more. She would build something permanent. Not a soup line, a table. Not a spoon, a future. Her eyes closed with resolve sharper than steel. Hunger had taught her how to begin. Now hope would teach her how to last. Spring came late that year, like a guest unsure of its welcome. But it came. Mud it came. Ice melted from the gutters. The air softened. And inside the spoon kitchen, something else bloomed. Organization. Schedules. Paint. Stations. All. A garden plan sketched on paper. Mila stood with chalk in hand, drawing boxes labeled carrots, cabbage, hope. Dasha giggled. You can't eat hope. Mila grinned. Not yet. The women watched from the corner, shaking their heads like proud aunties. Outside, someone was hammering scrap wood into benches. Petar at last had joined them, not leading but helping. He said little, but his hands moved with purpose. The spoon, as always, hung from Mila's apron string, no longer hidden, no longer symbolic. It was a tool now. Like her, a visitor arrived, a woman from the outer boroughs, tall, tired, carrying 2 children and a question. Is this where they feed you without asking who you are? Mila looked up from a crate of onions. It is. The woman sagged in relief. Can I work? Mila handed her a knife. Everyone does. No one asked names. Just hands. The woman peeled silently, her eyes glistening. Her daughter stirred soup. Her son counted spoons. Later, she touched Mila's shoulder. I didn't think places like this could exist. Mila replied, they didn't. Then we made one. That night, the woman slept by the stove with her children, wrapped in a donated quilt. Not safe yet, but seen. The garden began not in dirt, but in cans. Old metal tins filled with hopeful soil, and seeds smuggled from forgotten shelves. Children carried them to the windowsills like sacred offerings. Will they grow? Dasha asked. If we sing to them, Mila answered. And they did. Songs old and new echoed through the kitchen as hands worked. Music soothed more than hunger. Even the inspector returned, quiet this time. He stood in the doorway, watching, eyes unreadable. He left a note on the table. No further action pending. Mila read it, folded it, and said nothing. The city hadn't given them permission. But it had finally backed away. They cooked a stew that day. Thicker, richer, bold. The smell spread past the block, pulling strangers in. A boy came just to smell it, then asked to stir. Ever cooked before? Mila asked. No, he said. But I've always wanted to. That was enough. He stirred. He spilled. He laughed. The kitchen echoed with sounds of something long lost. Joy without apology. Later, he cleaned every pot. Do I get a title now? He joked. Mila smiled. You're the keeper of flavor. He saluted with a wooden spoon. Outside, sunlight touched the wall where chalk drawings now surrounded the spoon kitchen. Not graffiti murals. Stories, written in color. That evening Mila stepped outside alone. The air smelled of warm broth and spring. She held the spoon in one hand, wiping it clean, then kissed its edge softly. Tomorrow, she said to the sky. We plant more. The stars were faint, but there. Behind her the kitchen still buzzed, cutting, washing, humming. A life. A village. Built on nothing but will and metal. She tucked the spoon into her belt and walked the length of the block. Chalk drawings danced across the bricks, bowls, hands, fire, children. A whole language. A promise. And above them all, someone had written in sprawling letters, we feed ourselves. Summer arrived not with celebration but with quiet persistence. The garden sprouted real rows now, beans curling on string trellises, carrots pushing up from deep soil. Children ran barefoot through the alleyways, chasing each other between watering cans and wheelbarrows. Mila stood among them, older somehow, not in age, but in presence. She watched, not with control, but with pride. "It works," she whispered. Dasha came up beside her, holding a bowl filled with strawberries from someone's forgotten patch. "We should make jam," she said. Mila nodded. "And pie, and a feast." She looked around. "For everyone who believed we could." And quietly, a celebration began. The feast took a week to prepare. They borrowed pans, begged for flour, traded carrots for butter. Everyone offered something: music, stories, even flowers from cracks in the street. Long tables stretched across the alley. Plates mismatched, cups chipped, candles flickering in jars. Mila stood at the head, the silver spoon tied with a ribbon, placed in the center of the table like a crown. "This isn't charity," she said aloud. "It's community." And it started with one spoon. Cheers rose, clumsy and joyful. Plates were passed. No one left hungry. The city, for one day, felt whole. For one day, the dream sat at every table. Later that night, when the food was gone and songs had softened to hums, Mila sat alone with the spoon in her lap. She didn't cry. She simply stared at it, then looked around. At the tables, the crumbs, the candle ends. Dasha curled up nearby, sleeping with a smile. Peta sat by the door, arms folded, watching stars. Grandmother Hannah had not come 2 weeks, but she'd smiled that morning and whispered, "I'm proud." Mila leaned back, looking up. "We did it," she said to the stars. "And we're not done." The spoon gleamed one last time in the moonlight. The dream wasn't closing. It was growing. By morning, new chalk drawings covered the walls. Handprints, names, promises. One read, "I'll build my own kitchen." Another, "Dreams don't starve." Mila traced each one with her fingers, smiling softly. The spoon kitchen had become more than a place. It was a seed carried in every bowl, every child, every step home. She packed a crate, some ladles, a sack of flour, the smallest pot. "Where are you going?" Dasha asked, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Mila looked at her, smiling. "Where they need one." The spoon went into her pocket. Not to keep, but to begin again. The dream had legs now. And it was walking. Mila walked out of the alley, her steps quiet, steady. The spoon pressed against her heart, warm from her hand. She didn't look back, not because she didn't love what they built, but because she believed others would care for it now. Down the road, smoke curled from another chimney. A door opened. A woman waved. Mila waved back. A new kitchen. A new fire. A new dream. This was never about one place. It was about the flame passed from hand to hand, pot to pot. One spoon. One dream. Over and over. Until no one was hungry, not just for food but for belonging. And Mila? She just kept walking.